of God that I could implement in my business. I believe that the Bible is a solution book, but I also believe that you only see the solution that you are created to solve. So some people see the Bible through a lens of faith. Some people see the Bible through a lens of miracles. Some people see the Bible through a lens of healing. I see the Bible through a lens of purpose. So I do believe the Bible is a solution book, but you see the Bible through the lens of the solution that you are designed to fulfill. Now, where the purpose of business, the business of purpose comes in, is where that biblical solution intersects with strategy and skill, and then you're now able to implement in your business so that you now turn your business from a purpose vehicle to a purpose and profit vehicle. You guys know what I believe. You can drop it in the chat. Your place of purpose is your place of provision. Your place of purpose is your place of provision. So if it is a provision question, it is a purpose optimization question that you have to answer. It means that you may not have optimized your purpose in a way that it taps over into provision. Now, I remember growing up, and guys, I only came upon this realization maybe a couple months ago. Like, I remember growing up, as soon as bills came, my dad has this habit of, as soon as we get a bill, he wants the bill to be paid. As soon as we get a bill, he wants the bill to be paid. So he expects bills. He goes to the mailbox and say, "Let me see what bill I'm going to get today." And then he came in with that. Okay, we got this bill. We got this bill. We have to pay all of these bills. Now I didn't realize that this conditioned me to think that money was only used to pay bills. I only realized now in my life that I have the same habits that I grew up with on autopilot, just thinking that once the bills are paid, everything is good. Once the bills are paid, I am, it's all well. What that conditioning did is that it made me, at one point in time, only make enough to pay bills and not cross over into the prosperous phase of my life, not cross over into making more than just paying bills. Some of us, we have conditioning that we have adopted because of how we grew up that we don't even realize it's conditioning. And then we live from that lens. So this series is really to break that lens where we see, okay, my purpose is that thing that God has called me to do, but it's also the vehicle that God will use to bless your life. He wants you to live life, but also life more abundantly. So there are two parts that you can live. You can live life, and life could be just maintaining, life can be just paying bills, life can be like, listen, I'm good, I'm not in lack, everything is good. Or life more abundantly can be where you tap over into the extension of life, where that life now leads to provision, where that life now leads to profitability. So we talked last time in session one about what Daniel believed, that how he showed up. He showed up with his core belief, and he did not allow culture to infiltrate what he believed, who he saw himself as, and his solution. Now, tonight, we want to go a little bit deeper into that same train of thought to change some of our conditioning that says, you know what? Purpose and profit are separate. Y'all, if y'all remember from session one, purpose and profit are friends. They go together. Do you guys remember that? Drop yes in the chat if you remember session one. Purpose and profit are best friends. They actually go together. Now, there are 6 problems that you can solve. Solving any of these 6 problems would cause you to tap over into profitability. But of course, you have to have system, you have to have skill, you have to have strategy. And that's what we're going to dive into tonight. Now, the first principle I want you to write down if you're taking notes, and I hope you guys are taking notes, you should be taking notes. First principle is what people call too much is actually normal. What people call too much is actually normal. What people call too much is actually normal. Now, some of us have been conditioned to not show up how we are supposed to show up because we think it's too much. And because we think it's too much, we dim down ourselves. We show up some of the time and not all of the time, or we show up part of the way and not all the way. Because we think that us showing up often means showing up too much. But what people call too much is actually normal. The voice of your brand is the voice that you give your brand. I'll say that again. The voice of your brand is the voice you give your brand. So if you don't speak about your brand, how does your brand get a voice? So if you have the conditioning, and sometimes it's a subconscious conditioning. My dad, in my example, he never said, all you should do is pay bills. But I just saw this constant obsession. Even to today, he's like that. Like the minute the bill hits, Misty, he like, we have to go pay this bill. like, they're gonna call tomorrow. He's conditioned that way. I didn't realize that subconsciously it conditioned me to function like that. So, as it relates to your brand and your business, you might be thinking, I'm doing too much. Oh, I shouldn't show up this much. When really that subconscious conditioning and what people call too much should actually be your normal. So, if you don't think it's too much, you're probably not doing enough. If you're wondering, like, am I doing too much? I say do more. If you're wondering, like, am I showing up too much? I say probably up that up times 10. Because what people call too much should actually be your normal. Where do I get this from? Y'all know we're getting this teaching from the book of Daniel. So this comes from Daniel 2. Daniel 2, 10 and 11, right? So in Daniel 2, 10 and 11, I will read it. It says, the Chaldeans answered before the king. And remember last session, I taught you guys that Chaldeans is a type of language. Anybody remember that? Drop yes in the chat if you remember that. And it's a language of influence. And you as a kingdom business owner, you are supposed to bring a language of influence to the marketplace, right? Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there's not a man on earth that can show the king this matter. So let me give you a little bit of backstory, right? Thank you, Sharon. You're the only one that's talking to me tonight. Like, we could probably come off and have a private session since nobody else is here. The Chaldeans answered the king and they said, there's not a man on earth that can show the king this thing. So let me tell you what happened. Backstory. Previously in the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream and he wanted to get the interpretation of this dream. Now, similar, he didn't only want the interpretation of the dream, he wanted them to tell him what he dreamed and then interpreted the dream. So he didn't only want them to say, okay, this is the interpretation. Like, normally if somebody's interpreting a dream, you tell them what the dream is and then they'd interpret. He said, no, I want you to tell me what the dream was, then interpret the dream. So they started to talk. The men of influence started to say, listen, king, this is impossible. What you are asking us to do, there's not a man upon this earth that can show the king this matter. Therefore, they said there's no king, there's no lord, there's no ruler. I'm reading from Daniel 2, 10 and 11. That can show you such things. Thank you for taking notes, Felicia. There's not a magician, there's not an astrologer. So basically, there's nobody. This solution is so tough that there's nobody, king, that will be able to solve this problem. In essence, you're doing too much. What you're doing right now is too much. In business, we're tapping over to the purpose of business now, right? Solve problems people think are impossible. So you are probably hearing about your solution. Listen, this is too tough. Nobody solves this particular problem. Solve problems people think are impossible. Solve problems people think are difficult. Solve problems people think that there's no solution on the earth that can solve this problem. Why? Because we don't get our wisdom from the realm of the earth. We get our wisdom from the heavenly realm. That's what makes you different as a kingdom entrepreneur. Listen to what they said. They said there's not a man on the face of the earth that can tell you this problem and this solution. Verse 11 says, it is a rare thing that the king is requiring. So this gift, this thing that the king is requesting, it is rare, which means it's not common. It's very difficult. It's different. As a matter of fact, they said it was impossible. There's nobody that can show it before the king except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh. Listen, this is so powerful. If you understand that your business as a vehicle is designed to solve problems that exist on the earth realm, but the solution does not come from the realm that the problem exists in. Are you guys following me? The solution comes from your interaction. I coach, right? I coach, I speak, I have a physical space. Everything that you see to the front of the business comes from what I do behind, comes from Sharon, prayer time, comes from me fasting, comes from me going to God and saying, God, how can I now approach this? This is why when people says that this solution it's tough, it's only tough if your wisdom comes from the earth. It's not tough if your wisdom comes from God. So, what is impossible for others? Hey, Kanisha, it was normal to Daniel because Daniel knew he could tap into the power of God. So, what was an impossible solution? Sometimes you have ideas for your business, and people are like, well, we've never seen that done. We don't think that could work. Do you know why they never saw it done? Because it doesn't come from the realm that the problem exists. It comes from a different realm. It comes from you tapping into the power of God. So, when others find things overwhelming, that is your lane of genius. When other people find solutions tough, that's where you can show up and make a difference. Normalize your brilliance. Sometimes people say to me, Coach Krisha, those ideas that you give us, it's so amazing. Like, how did you come up with that? Sometimes I can't tell them how I came up with it because it wasn't me. So, one practical thing I want you guys to do is to write down things about your business where people say this is tough or this cannot be done and how you can solve it. Your practical assignments. Write down, hey Gail, I just saw you pop in. Write down an area typical for your business that people say this is tough. This cannot be done. That's the thing that we are going to tap into God's wisdom to solve problems that people on the earth realm say it's difficult because we are now tapping into a greater source of wisdom. Don't shrink to fit the market. You expand and let the market adjust. When people buy into, and we did this in session 1, when people buy into your brand, when people buy into your business, yes, they're buying into your solution, they're buying into your strategy, but they're also buying into your belief. Because we were crazy enough to get an idea and to launch these ideas as businesses and to take something that came from downloads from heaven and to now put that out into the marketplace. That's right, Cara. Don't shrink to fit what the market says is enough. Be too much. You be that voice that they say is extra because you are designed to now bring that to the space and the market has to adjust. The market has to adjust to who you are. So that was principle number 1. Was that good? Are you guys ready for principle number 2? Principle number 2. Principle number 2 is diagnose before you prescribe. So it's similar to when you go to the doctor, when you go to a general practitioner. The doctor is just confirming, asking questions based on what you have said to them to prescribe what medication do you need based on the pain that you are experiencing. So you might say, hey, doc, I've been having headaches. They might start asking you questions about your eyes, start asking you about your sleep. They'd start asking you different questions. When they start asking these questions, it's really to prescribe what's the next step. Now, I'm going to give you guys a key strategy in terms of your prescription, and I'm even going to give you a script. So get your pen and paper ready to take this script. World problems can be broken down into 6 categories. World problems, all of them. Anything that we want to solve right now can be broken down into 6 categories. Now, in no particular order. I'm just giving you all the categories, but it's not in any particular order, right? The first problem category is money. People want more of it, want to invest it, want to grow it, want to learn how to use it, how to optimize it. First category is money. Second category in terms of problems. Now, after I give you guys these 6 problems, I want you to look at your business model to see which problem you answer, right? The second is relationships. The second problem category. People want better relationships with themselves and with others. So with a spouse, with a parent, with friends, or even their relationship with themselves. This is second problem area. I'm teaching you guys this because any problem that you will solve in your business is tied to one of these 6 areas. The third area in terms of problems, world problems, is career and business. I want a better career. I want a new career. I'm unsure what career I need to be in. I want to grow my business. I have questions about my business. So the third, Felicia, you're dropping some good notes now. Third category, thank you so much, is career and business. Now, the fourth problem area, purpose. Purpose. People want a sense of fulfillment. Even though, yes, they may have a money problem or relationship problem or a career and business problem. Most of us generally want to feel fulfilled in what we're doing. We want to feel like we're making a difference. We want to feel like we're making an impact. So there's also that purpose question, purpose problem. Now, the next area is going to be health and fitness. The next problem area is health and fitness. We want to feel better. We want to feel our best. We want to show up feeling that we could carry the body that we've been given for the assignment. So we don't want to feel like the body can't carry the assignment. Listen, last week I felt like my body couldn't carry the assignment. So health and fitness is high up on the problem list, that if you are solving them, this is among the earth problems, y'all, that people are saying, it might be impossible. This is where you are going to tap into the business of purpose and fit into these spaces, right? And then problem number 6 is freedom. Freedom. People want time freedom, location freedom. They want to get up and do the things that they love. They want freedom to not have to ask their bank account, like my coach normally says, to ask their bank account, can I afford it? They want freedom of expression. So this is one of the problems as well. So these are the 6 categories of problems that are earthbound. Now, when you are showing up in the business of purpose and you are answering one of these questions, you have to be very familiar with the problem and speak about the problem better than the person that has the problem. I will say that again. You have to be very aware of what the problem is in one of these 6 areas, and to speak about the problem better than the person that has the problem. This is exactly what Daniel did. The king had a problem. Daniel was able to speak to an impossible problem using the wisdom of God and bringing a solution. So he understood the problem even better than the person with the problem. And he provided a solution to the problem. We will see the rewards for those that provide solutions, right? So we're on principle number 2, diagnose before you prescribe. Daniel told the king what the problem was, the dream. before even giving the solution. But what Daniel did is in Daniel 2, 27 and 28. Daniel 2, 27 and 28. So I'll catch you all up a little bit, right? So previously on the story of Daniel. So after the magicians and the astrologers, they were like, this problem is too hard. We cannot solve this. They called for Daniel. Surprise, surprise. He could speak the language of influence. Anytime you speak the language of influence, people will be drawn to your solution. People will call your names in rooms because your influence is tied to your solution. So Daniel now comes to the king and he says, King, give me some time. That's in verse 16. He says, you know what? Give me some time to now come back with the answer. The missing gap between diagnosing and prescribing is the time that you sit with the problem that you solve. The time that you sit with the problem that you solve. You should be so aware of your client's problem that when your brand speaks, people are like, oh my gosh, like you've been reading my mind. I have been thinking this. I have been feeling this. I have been experiencing this. So that gap, Daniel said, you know what? Give me time. I'm going to go to God. But in that time with him going to God, and remember I said skill, strategy, and then he's now coming back with a solution. Skill, strategy, solution. Skill, strategy, solution. So in that time, he's going to God about the problem. He's now coming back with the solution. Influence comes. This is how to grow your influence, guys. People only follow those with influence. Influence comes when you articulate the problem better than the person living it. I'll say that again because I think that was so good. Influence comes when you articulate the problem better than the person that's living it. So when you speak about my problem in one of those 6 problem areas, better than the person that's living it, that's how your solution now takes wings and you increase in influence. That's good. Influence comes when you articulate the problem better than the person that's living it. People pay attention when they feel understood. So if people are not paying attention to your messaging, it's probably because they don't feel understood through what you are speaking. When you speak, it should sound like their internal conversation. It should sound like their internal dialogue. Anything that you've bought, if you think about it, you bought it because there was an internal conversation that you had about a need or about a want. And the thing that you bought spoke to the internal conversation, spoke to the internal dialogue. So, for you to get people to pay attention, want to now stand out in the midst of the noise. In session 1, we talked about speaking a different language than the language that exists in the market. We also spoke about, if you guys remember, how Amazon and Google have created language that lives in our mind. That anytime we think of the word search, we think of, I'm going to Google it. We didn't know what a Google was, but they brought language to the marketplace. So now, instead of search, we think Google. Like, just think about it. If you want to, and we talked about this the last time as well, if you want to shop, you want to buy anything, first place you're probably going to check is Amazon. Why? Because Amazon inserted themselves in our mind. Anytime you pay attention and people feel understood, you are going to automatically come to mind as the solution. That's one of the things that Daniel, in the story of Daniel, we can see so clearly that anytime they had a problem, they'd say, call Daniel. How come Daniel became the solution to every problem? How come they were like, you know what? We can't solve it, but probably Daniel can. Listen, that's what I'm getting passionate. Sorry, y'all. I'm gonna be yelling now. I'm getting passionate. That's what you are. to the marketplace. That every time somebody thinks of, you know what, I need, a good education for my child, they should think Sharon, they should think key to success. Every time somebody thinks of your solution, your name should come to the top of their mind, because what people say about your brand is what you say about your brand. If you're not saying enough, they can't say enough. They only knew to call Danielle because they saw anytime we had a problem, somehow Daniel had a solution. Anytime we needed something, somehow Daniel's relationship with his God, he was able to come up with the solution. That's what people need to call you when you diagnose their problem. Are you guys getting it tonight? Is this good? Are you getting something out of tonight? So diagnose clearly before you sell the solution. Don't just put the solution in front of them. Make sure you are speaking their language. Make sure they feel understood. Make sure they feel like, I want it to be as intimate as they feel like you are reading their journal. I want them to feel like, wait a minute, did this person read my journal entry for this morning? I'll tell you all, I was watching something on, I think, Instagram, right? And I'm watching the post, and it was a carousel, which is the one that has multiple slides. And the lady is saying, do you know why you feel anxiety when opening emails? That was the first thing. And then the next slide was, because you always expect problems when you open emails. Then the next slide was, can I tell you what to do instead? And I'm like, she know I have anxiety with emails, right? Because I feel like something on fire somewhere. And I'm like, wait a minute. I felt understood. I felt like she had the solution. That's somebody that sat with my problem and was so intimate with my problem that she didn't come saying, listen, I help high performers to get rid of anxiety as it relates to meetings, calls. Because when you're in business, listen, them emails gonna take you out sometimes. Emails, calls, it be a lot. But when I read this carousel, I felt understood. I felt like I was seen. I felt like someone was in Kanisha, my most intimate thoughts. That's what you want to do when you show up. That is the things people are thinking. Like they are thinking right now, Kanisha, I probably should be healthier and I shouldn't wait for December 31st or January 1st. But how do I make better choices? What are the choices that I should make? How can I have alternatives? So when you show up and you speak, I'm on this point way too long, they should feel like they are understood. Remember, influence comes. Hey, Tamisha, good to see you. Influence comes when you articulate the problem better than the person living it. All right, I think we can move from there. We can move from there. Oh, I promised to give you all a script. I promised to give you all a script to communicate, right? So here's your script. And I know Felicia got you all covered. She been doing notes. She been on it. It's not that you can't slash don't slash won't. So we're going on the negative side of what your client might be feeling. So you're saying it's not that you can't, it's not that you don't, it's not that you won't. So that's why I said can't slash don't slash won't. You pick whichever word you're going to speak about. So it's not that you can't slash don't slash won't slash have, and then I want you to put a blank. So I want you to fill in that blank there. So I'll give you an example. If I were talking about purpose and I were using this line, it's not that you don't like your career. I'd probably start like that. So I'm going to speak about the emotion that my person is feeling and tie it back to my solution. I want you to do the same thing with your solution using the script, speaking negatively to the problem, but then inserting how you solve it, right? The next line, you just need blank. So the blank is where you will fill in what do they need. So you're not saying it's not that you can't do this. You just need, and you blank, fill in the blank. What do they need? What do they need? So I might say something like, it's not that you don't enjoy your career. You just need to tap into what made you choose this part in the first place. So I'm going to start a discussion. So the person that's reading that, they're like, oh, maybe I really don't. Do I like my career? Don't I like my career? But I'm going to take them down apart. So you see how this negative stops them, gets their attention, the language of influence, speaking the problem even better than the person living it, right? You just need blank. So we fill in that blank. That's why I am committed to blank. That's why I am committed to blank. Now, in session 1, we talked about Daniel showing up with what he believed, showing up with who he is, and not going against his core. So when you talk about that's why I'm committed to, talk about your mission. My life's mission is to influence thought to change behavior. My life's mission is to influence thought to change behavior. Every room that I enter, I think about how can I influence the way this person is thinking so that it changes the way that they behave. So if I were inserting manner, I would say that's why I'm committed to influencing people's thoughts so that they can change their behavior. I would go into what I believe. I see the mission as the governing statement of your life. If you think about the government, any government, there'd be different positions, but in order for something to come forward as law, the government now meets on what are the decisions? What do we believe? What is our core? The government now meets on that. I believe your life's mission statement is similar to the government. It tells you in your life how to show up. Every time I teach people, say, Krisha, you always make it so simple. Guys, it really don't be simple. But I sit with it long enough to be able to make it simple so someone can implement because my mission, that's why I'm committed to influencing thought to change behavior. That anytime you encounter me, something I would say would change the way that you believe. That's what you're inserting there. That's why I'm committed to. What are you committed to in your life? What are you committed to in your business? What's the government? What's the law concerning how you show up? That every time I always say, every time I show up, purpose is in the room. Someone will encounter purpose and they will come to a new realization. Hey, Dale! They'll come to a new realization of who they are. So anytime they book me to speak, they book purpose. Anytime I stand on the stage, I stand in purpose. Anytime I hold the mic, I hold it in purpose. That's how intimate I am with my solution. You should be like that. And you should say, every time I show up, this is the government of my life, and this is how I show up. That's one of the reasons that Daniel increased in influence. If you remember from Daniel 1, when we talked last session to this session, there was never a time Daniel wavered in what he believed. He always put out a challenge. Okay, so the king said we should have this meat and we should have this wine. So what we are going to do is for 10 days, we are going to do this separate thing. If our system doesn't work, then, we might try yours. But he knew in confidence his system was going to work. Same thing in chapter 2. He comes, the magicians, the astrologers, they say, this is impossible. This cannot be done. There's no way a man on the earth can tell you what you've dreamed and can also give you the interpretation. Daniel is like, give me time. Let me just sit with your problem. Oh gosh, guys, I'm getting excited. Let me just sit with your problem. And I promise you, I'm going to come up with a solution. That's what you are as kingdom entrepreneurs. Sit with the problem long enough to bring real solutions into the marketplace. Let me stop screaming. Wealth follows wisdom. Wealth follows wisdom. Wealth follows wisdom. Anytime you can bring wisdom, wealth is attracted to it. Your life is your wisdom on display. So anything you see as the fruit of your life is the fruit of what you know. It's the fruit of your wisdom. Wealth follows wisdom. So anytime you increase in wisdom, wealth is always going to be assigned to that level of wisdom that you increased in. Now, when God told me to do this series on the business of purpose, can I be honest and tell you all, like, we had a little fight. We had a little fight because I'm like, God, as many things as I have to do, as many sessions, as many clients, so much coaching, you trying to tell me to show up. And but nevertheless, God, at thy will, I always obey because I don't know what's on the other end of that obedience. I don't know what's on the other end of me saying yes to showing up to teach this. And I have been increasing even in wisdom as I too study and prepare for this session that we learn from Daniel. I too have also learned. So I'm like, I don't see fully, God, the result of this assignment, but I'm going to say yes to this assignment. Sit with the problem of kingdom entrepreneurs long enough so that I can bring to the marketplace a belief system that shifts you from thinking you should just be making enough and pull you into a realm where you understand that you should be walking in abundance more than enough. You should be walking in freedom. You should be walking in wealth attached to the wisdom that God has given you because you are solving earthbound problems with heavenly wisdom. There's a grace that is on you. You don't just have a business that's selling cookies or selling t-shirts. You're not just a coach. You're not just a counselor. You're not just a teacher. You have now tapped in to the wisdom of God, solving earth realm problems. Your solution is different. Your solution is different. All right, principle number three. Principle number three, and then we're wrapping up. Are you guys getting something out of session 2 tonight? Are you getting something out of session 2? Principle number 3. Your internal mission must have an external expression. Your internal mission must have an external expression. I just mentioned that your life is your wisdom on display. Whatever you believe internally should be reflected externally. There's no way you believe something internally and we can't see evidence of that belief externally. Daniel 2 and 30. Daniel says, the secret has not been revealed to me because I have more wisdom than anyone else, but so that your majesty will know of the wisdom of God. So the secrets are revealed, not just so that you would think, oh, like Daniel is so wise, but that you will know Daniel has a wise God. And because Daniel has a wise God, he shows up differently in business. This is what I want you to take. That you're not only going to be successful because of your wisdom, which you do have, because of your skill, which you do have, but you're going to be successful so that people know the God that you serve, that you tap into, has allowed you to tap into a different dimension of success. I believe we are in a time and a season where God wants kingdom entrepreneurs to rise up in levels of success. People listen differently, Gail, when we have the success to back up what we're talking about. When we show this is what my God can do. When we stand 10 toes down, that yes, I might be brilliant. Yes, I might be skilled, but none of it without the grace of God to stand in the space that I'm standing in. So Daniel's internal mission was to honor God. So externally, what did we see? He'd always mention, it was not me, it was God. He'd always mention to the king his internal mission and his internal honor for God always came out. I did a podcast interview 2 weeks ago, and the interviewer was like, one of the things I admire about you is that on your page you are going to know that Krisha believes in God. And she said, do you feel strange about being so open about your faith, or have you gotten any kickbacks concerning it? And I was like, no, I don't feel any way because it's my internal guide, it's my internal mission. This is how I live. So I can't teach anything else other than who I am. My internal mission becomes an external expression. Now, does that mean I'm going to come shouting hallelujah and all of that? If it calls for it, yes. But I spoke at a graduation some weeks ago. Somebody ran up to me and she was like, I can feel Holy Spirit all over that presentation, y'all. I ain't quote a script here. I didn't say anything like that. But the internal mission becomes an external expression. Sometimes I have clients that say, you are a different type of coach. Like, I just feel different when I coach with you. Because the internal mission is not about using words that I think will be acceptable and put me in this category. It's about a life of devotion that shows up in how I show up. It's about principles, it's about the core value. Just as Daniel, he did not defile himself, regardless of what the decree was. He was committed to his internal mission being his external expression. Your purpose needs a vehicle to be expressed. For many of us, that vehicle is your business. We talked about this in session one. If you missed session one, please go back, watch the replay. That vehicle is your business, right? When your internal mission aligns with your external expression, you build a business that has meaning and that has money. You build a business that has meaning and that has money. 3 years ago, I sat with a question and I began to ask God, how is it that people know their purpose but they're broke? That was my question. I be asking God straight up. I don't know what y'all do, but this is what I do. I said, but God, how do people know their purpose, know, what they're called to do, and they're broke? His answer might surprise you. He said, because we discount the purpose he has placed on the inside of us. So he was like, the provision of the believer is not a heavily input problem. It's a believer problem. It's a believer optimizing that purpose. And he said, the thing that I give to you, if you choose to discount that thing, then whatever you lack is a result of you agreeing to the discount, not a result of me giving the gift. Ooh-wee. Because I was confused. Because I'm like, God, if you give us this potential and you said you are omnipotent, all potential, and you breathe your breath into me. So therefore, there's a piece of you in me, potential. And that potential can now become alive into the world as a manifestation of who you are, but it's an extension of the provision you've assigned to my life. You're telling me the provision that I don't have is the discounts that I give on the purpose that you have placed on the inside of me. Okay, Jesus. It's similar to that scripture that says, if you say to that mountain, be thou removed and cast into the sea, it shall be removed. But some of us saying, God, move the mountain. God, move the mountain. And he says, I give you the authority to move the mountain. Similarly, behold, I give you the power to get wealth. If I give you the power to get wealth, there's a deposit inside of you that's tied to the wealth. And when you unlock and optimize that deposit, your place of purpose is your place of provision. I got excited there, guys. Because I really believe these chains have to come off of us. Where we think it's just about, okay, a return ticket to heaven, serve God, I love him, and that's it. And I just, buy time on the earth. So I'm just here chilling out until Christ return. Come, Jesus, come. You've been waiting too long. No! It's for us to rise up, optimize that purpose, understand the vehicle. Sorry, guys. Passion. Understand the vehicle that God has given us. So your second practical assignment, I gave you all one earlier. Write down your internal why. This internal why is not because of my kids, it's not because of, my spouse, not because of my family. This internal why. Why do you really believe that you are showing up? Why are you even on this session? Like, what's that internal why? There's something that's pulling, there's something that's saying, you know what? You could show up greater. There's more. What's that internal why that needs to now show up as an external part of your business? I want you to sit with that question. What is your internal why that needs to now show up as an external part of your business? Daniel, through the power of God, was able to now do something that seemed impossible, bring a solution that others said couldn't be done. That's what, somebody said, repeat, sorry. Write down your internal why and how it can be showing up externally in your business. Write down your internal why. How can that internal why now show up in your business? Right? Once you tap into the power of God, you could clearly speak solution to any problem. You could clearly speak solution to any problem. So we are called to and assigned to bring a different language to business. It doesn't sound like anybody else's because it's not designed to sound like anybody else's. Our wisdom comes from a different place. We're solving earthly problems with heavenly wisdom. And that wisdom is what will attract your wealth. This has been session 2, the business of purpose. I hope you guys got a lot out of tonight because listen, I surely did if you didn't. I am going to now open up. If we do have any questions, I will